Big welcome to all of you here online. So, a little bit of background. And actually, funnily enough, and this was a surprise to me because when I first discovered this was the case, I was quite taken aback and think, oh no. But I think it worked out really well. Due to some little technical glitches, the beginning part of the first talk, if you really want to call it a lecture, you can, but I prefer talk. The beginning of the first talk didn't quite work out in terms of technicals. It's somewhere in space. it's not here with us. So here I am separately recording for you guys, all of you wonderful folks online, just the beginning of this first session. You find at some point, halfway through, or whenever, I'm not sure how long this is going to take me, I'm not timing this, I'm just giving you the information that I need to give you. Who knows how long it'll take. At some point, you'll suddenly find me having mysteriously changed shirts and talking in a different context, you know. A bit over a week ago that was now. So please don't be put off by that, and don't worry. You get everything that the in-person guys have gotten, as always. In fact, this is kind of extra. One of the things I find that I really try to trust in my life is that everything happens because it needs to happen. And this is an old yogic truth. The whole thing, everything happens for a reason, it's okay. But it starts to make one get too much into the ego sometimes, you know. What's the reason? Why is this happening? Well, often it's happening because you need it. It's happening because you're cleaning out your karmic storehouse, or you know, the reason might be mysterious. You don't need to understand it. But I'll reframe that phrase. Everything happens because it needs to happen. So here I am, given the opportunity to talk to you all quite intimately. There's only you here. I'm seeing all of you in my mind's eye in front of you. And the wonderful Avi, who is recording this for us, behind the scenes. Without her, there wouldn't be a recording. And we have some things to talk about. By now, I'm hoping you've gone in order, so you will have done you've listened to my little introduction. You will have done the first Hatha class, the first meditation, the Shikantaza, and the second meditation, the Anapanasati, the mindfulness of breathing. And that leads us to here. That leads us to where we've gotten, and here we are, we move on. We talk about meditation a little bit. Now, it's funny really, because often people think, why do I even need to understand anything about meditation? The view, you know, why do I need to understand any of this? Well, it's really important actually. The problem is, no matter how much you practice, if you don't understand the reasons behind the practices, if you don't get your logical mind, your thinking mind on side, it's not really going to work, because your thinking mind will fight you all the time. The more your thinking mind, the more your ego, the more your sense of self understands what you're trying to do here, the more all of you can work together in the same direction, in the direction of transformation, of a wild love that fills every cell in your body. I'm not even exaggerating this time. So we need to understand, not just do. That's what these classes are about. These classes are about giving you the view of meditation. The biggest chunk of all these talks that I am giving you in this training are all about the journey of meditation. The journey begins today in terms of talking you through it, and it extends through a few of these talks, with many little digressions and sidetracks that need to be encountered on the way. Let me begin by sharing with you a metaphor some of you have heard me share before. It's very, very short, but it always gets me excited. And it's actually, I was inspired today to share this by the choice of shirt. See, the in-person guys didn't get this shirt. This is my favorite tiger shirt. For those who can't quite see it, zoom in, you see tigers prowling. Two metaphors, actually. First one, and these are both traditional, from the Zen tradition of Japan. We all think and act like we are stray cats in the middle of a storm with no food and no shelter. Life is hard. We find no safety. We are straggly, our fur is falling off, we're cold, we're shivering. This is how we live our life. And through these practices, through meditation, one day, we finally wake up and realize we were a tiger all along. Second metaphor. The journey of meditation is like entering into the tiger's cave. There are many, many footprints leading in, but there are no footprints leading out. You bring all of your hopes, your fears in with you. You bring all of your insecurities, you bring all of your stresses. But you never come out again, at least not in any way that is recognizable. You will change through meditation. If you do it, if you really do it every day, if you really practice it sincerely, not if you do it once or once a week, nothing's going to happen. You'll get some peace, which is nice, but that's it. If you do your practice every day, and we talk later in the building a practice session at length, I think it's the second last of the talks, we'll talk at length later about how to do that. So don't worry, it's not like you have to do an hour every day all of a sudden, although you can if you want to. I'd love it if you did, but many of you won't be ready for that. That's just silly. But if you do your practice every day, if you do engage with this work every day, you begin to change. And usually meditation is quite funny, really. It tends to resolve whatever imbalances you have. My teacher Vajradhaka, my first meditation teacher, and well-loved man, he's just wonderful, wonderful teacher. Vajradhaka, who has a fancy name but lives in England and is English, but he took a Buddhist name when he ordained in a Buddhist tradition in the 1970s, I think. Now, Vajradhaka tells that when he was a young man, he was completely impractical and really all over the place. He was really kind of, just living with the flow and doing whatever he feels like, and not practical, wasn't able to get things done, wasn't good with organizing things or money or whatever, just kind of all over the place. And he assumed actually meditation would make him even more like that. What meditation did, as he tells it, is it made him more practical. It like balanced out his personality. Suddenly he was far clearer with people. He was better at planning things. He became far better with handling money, standing up for himself, all the things that he was missing. That's him. For me, I have to share personally, a similar situation is the case. Funnily enough, some of you can probably tell right away. Some of you will be surprised by this, depending on how you see things. I'm a complete introvert. By nature, I am so happy on my own, or with one friend or one lover, having time together. I love that. I love that. I love being on my own. I love going home at night. And like tonight, my plan is to go home and be with my dogs and not talk to anybody. I love that. Funny thing is, That's the way I was completely when I began to meditate every day. But meditation changed that. It's really weird. I still have that side of me. It's still my predominant nature. But at the same time, I'm finding these days, often, I really feel like being with people. And when I'm with them, I actually enjoy it. I'm far less shy. I used to be so shy. That shyness is not really there now. I'm okay. There's no bashfulness. I'm just me. Take it or leave it. I used to want to please everyone. I don't anymore. Of course, I like to be liked. I like it if you guys all think I'm a nice person and you enjoy spending time with me online or in person. But if you don't, it's okay. You don't have to. It's not a problem. Confidence was at an all-time low when I began meditation life. Maybe not all-time, but it was pretty low. Confidence just rose over the years. Meditation balances me out. The aspects of the personality that are lacking rise. The aspects of the personality that are too strong fade. I think that's a decent preamble. The first thing we need to talk about really, when we talk about the journey of meditation, is the starting point. One of my favorite teachers out there is a woman called Pema Chodron, and she's American, but actually a Tibetan Buddhist nun. Within a Tibetan Buddhist lineage, she's a nun. She's taken various vows, and she's basically living in a monastic context with all the many, many, many regulations they have to follow. A Buddhist monk or nun has hundreds of rules they have to follow. It's quite intense. So she's living quite a structured, rigorous life. But aside from all that, I'm getting digressing a bit too much now. As you know, I like a good story. If you didn't know this before, now you know. So Pema Chodron has written many books and given many talks, and pretty much every book begins in the same way. And it's said in different ways, different words, different versions of it, but she always basically says the same thing. You have to start where you are. It might sound so obvious, but actually it's really important advice. Where are you now? Are you currently in severe depression? Are you currently in the middle of a horrendous heartbreak? Have you just met someone and are you in incredible love? Are you in a long-term relationship that feels kind of stale? Is your working life suddenly difficult? Have you lost your job? How do you feel? Who are you right now? This is where you start. You don't wait until you've sorted out your life. You don't wait until you've fixed your relationship. You don't wait until you feel good in your body. You do it now. You practice. But you practice in a way depending on where you start. This leads me on to the very important topic of inspiration. Why do you meditate? I mean, when in the in-person group, I asked the group, why do you meditate? And I got various responses, actually very good ones. But what really made me happy was seeing all those reasons for meditation. Why do you meditate? Think about that. Why do you meditate? Why do you actually want to meditate? Why on earth did you sign up for all this time, this meditation? Why did you spend your money in this way rather than another way? Why do you spend your precious time in this way instead of another way? What's your reason? Why do you meditate? What part of you is drawn to this work? Does it feel like you need it? Is it as simple as you're really stressed and you want to relax? The example I always like to give is, there's a few funny examples I'll give you actually. The first one I'm thinking of right now is of one of my students in China. I was living and teaching in Shanghai for quite a while, 18 months, a bit more, many years ago now actually, before I ever moved to Bali. And one of my students wanted to learn to meditate with me. And her reason for meditation was very simple. She wanted to lose weight. And, it makes me laugh too. I'm sure many of you are laughing. Why is she meditating to lose weight? That makes no sense. Shouldn't she just eat differently or do more exercise or any of those things? Shouldn't she go see a nutritionist? Well, yeah, she can do all that. She did all that. It didn't work. You know why? Her mind wasn't behind it. She was not able to lose weight because her mind was constantly sabotaging her. She knew exactly what she should eat and shouldn't eat. She knew it. But she couldn't do it. Because she lacked the resolve. She had various parts of herself that weren't able to deal with not getting the pleasure of the food she wanted. She loved cream buns and she loved fried food. And she felt like she needed them. So she recognized very clearly, I need to work with my mind in order to succeed in my dieting desires. And I was like, how awesome is that? I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to want to become enlightened. I mean, I would love it if you all did. I mean, that's amazing. I practice to wake up from all my delusions, often called enlightenment. That's why I do it. I have other reasons too, but the main reason is very simple. I want to go into the depths of experience and realize what life is really about. I'm a seeker, I'm a journeyer. That's my journey, that's my path this lifetime. By the way, don't believe anyone telling you there is past lives and there isn't past lives. You have to find out for yourself. But many of you won't want to meditate at all. You won't have any desire to meditate for those high aims. You want to meditate because you want to lose weight and you realize your mind isn't able to do it. Your mind is getting in the way. Another funny story. My brother, my wonderful, wonderful brother Daniel, I love him dearly. He's hilarious and crazy and very different to me. Big white beard, massive belly, very, outgoing and extrovert and has had a wild life. Works in all sorts of crazy fields. And one day this quite rough, seemingly heart of gold, but initially you made me think is quite rough, came up to me. This is the guy that has admitted to me that if he tries to help an old woman across the road, she sees him and runs away. He's a funny guy. So my brother Daniel came to me and said, Bernd, please teach me how to meditate. It's like, what? You want to meditate? Why? Oh, because I want to learn to telepathically communicate with aliens. And I thought he was joking. He was serious. Our father had said you could do this and he wanted to find out for himself. He wanted to tune his mind toward the alien wavelength and talk to them. Of course, it sounds utterly ludicrous. And I'm not even going to talk about whether or not it's a real thing, telepathically communing with aliens. It sounds quite far-fetched, but who knows? I haven't done it. Doesn't mean it's not true. Who knows? But the point of it is, I didn't care why. I didn't care that he had this desire to talk to aliens. I cared that he wanted to meditate. Whatever reason brought him there. So I taught him to meditate. And he stuck to it for quite a while, a few months. He eventually sadly gave up. But one thing I have to say is that while he was doing the meditation, he became a better person. He became kinder. He didn't ever talk to the aliens, but he became kinder. He became more present. Conversation was far better. He got to know himself more. Whatever reason you begin to meditate, you'll get that and probably a lot more. And you may not end up getting the initial result, like Daniel never talked to the aliens. Maybe if he stuck to it, he would. I don't know. But he got a lot more. Sometimes you will meditate for a certain aim and then attain that aim and then you give it up. I always feel sad when that happens, but maybe it's what needs to happen for you. My teacher Vajradhaka, one of my students, one of my yoga students, when I was in London, I sent to him. I said, look, I'm teaching a yoga. She wants to learn to meditate. At that time, I wasn't really comfortable teaching meditation. I was still in my first couple of years of practice, and I didn't want to teach yet. I didn't feel ready, so I sent her to my teacher. And she needed to meditate. She knew it because she was going through a really painful divorce. And she just wanted to use the meditation practice to get through the divorce. And it helped her completely in that regard. She moved through the divorce with grace and gentleness and was able to really handle the situation well. And then when she finished the divorce process, she gave up meditation. So for me, it's a bit of a pity she gave up, but at the same time, how wonderful that meditation gave her that gift. There are so many reasons for meditation. And ultimately, you for yourself need to have a strong reason. What that reason is, to a point, is important, but not that much. It's important to a point because the reason will change how the practice unfolds. You know, the more ambitious your reason is, the more likely you will go very far in your meditation. If you only meditate to get a bit of peace and a bit of stress release, then you may not go that much further. You might find it changes, but often the mind is funny. You know, you point yourself in one direction, and then you don't really see the other gifts that are coming along the way. Like you've decided, I'm going to walk here. I'm not going to be sidetracked. I'm not going to be sidetracked. I'm going to walk this way. And then suddenly as you walk, you don't even see the incredible view that's happening on the right. You don't stop to see it, and you miss a splendid moment that you had the opportunity to see. Or you realize actually the path you had decided on isn't actually that great. It's leading you to a small, dodgy little quarry. When if you go down this path, you're walking to the most beautiful valley you could ever imagine. As a silly metaphor. Well, not that silly actually, it's pretty accurate. So the traditional stance is choose as big as you can reason for meditation. But again, to begin with, you start where you are. If you meditate for stress release, that's why you meditate. If you meditate to relax, that's why you meditate. But be aware that there's much more than that, and you learn so much in this training. I'm looking forward to what you have ahead of you. You know, I've done most of the content now. You know, I know what you have ahead of you. There's so much there. There's so much information, so many practices, so many things to experience. I can't wait to hear actually how all of you are getting on with the work. So you have this big journey ahead of you, and you'll discover so much about the reasons you might meditate. And your reasons might be completely different by the end of this training than they are right now at the beginning. So the last thing I need to say before I change into a version of myself a week younger in a different shirt, last thing I need to say is I remember very clearly in that first session we had one of the students in person asking a very important question that I talked about a little while, and I want to make sure you get that as well. So one of the students asked, why do I have to do seated meditation? Why can't I lie down? Very important question, very good question, and needs to be addressed. The simple reason is that lying down leads to very different mental states than sitting up. You will be doing a number of lying down meditation practices. I think 2 are all the way lying down and 1 is half lying down from memory. Maybe I'm misremembering that. Yeah. There are some lying down practices. I do some lying down meditation quite often. Not right now in my practice, but I periodically spend a few weeks doing certain practices lying down that are given, especially within Tibetan Buddhism, there's a lot of these lying down practices that are preparing you for the seated versions of them. Like you'll do in the second big module, which is the first meditation practice of second module, which is entering into somatic meditation or something like that. It's called something like that. I've called it entry into somatic meditation, I think. a kind of simpler version of the 10 points practice. But the thing is, those practices, those lying down practices, they lead you to a kind of very dreamy state. Even when you're really present and aware, Yoga Nidra is another great example, which we'll do at the end of the yogic meditation bunch. Even when you're really, really present, it's a different state. It's kind of, you're lying down, it's kind of a heavier state. It's almost too relaxed. It's great at times, but it's not cutting it for what you really need meditation for. And the reason is, very simply, and this is what I have to explain that I don't want you to miss for you guys online, is that at any given point in time, one of the 3 gunas will be ascendant. The 3 gunas, I'm not going to go into them in too much detail, this is a long topic, but just to put it very simply, the 3 gunas are tamas, rajas, and sattva. Tamas means heaviness or inertia. It's not bad. You know, gravity is part of tamas. Without gravity, we wouldn't be on this planet. Groundedness is part of tamas. We all need tamas. If you're an Ayurvedic person, if you know about Ayurveda, it's to do with kapha, often called kapha, but it's actually pronounced kapha. We then have rajas, the opposite. Now, rajas in Ayurveda, that's pitta, you know, the fire, muscular type. Rajas is agitation. Literally means frenzy. It's the opposite to tamas. So tamas is kind of heavy, rajas is kind of agitated. And then we have in the center sattva, light, to do with vata in Ayurveda. Just for those, I'm not going to teach Ayurveda this training, but just for those who know Ayurveda, so you can make those linkages. Yeah, Ayurveda works with the gunas a lot in the form of the doshas. So the thing with lying down is it's essentially a tamasic posture. It's a heavy posture. It's a posture that is leading you too much into heaviness. It's not going to lead you in towards sattvic states. Bright, aware, bright, light states are not very likely to occur lying down. Just like you wouldn't do meditation standing up. It's funny really, no one asked me, why can't I meditate standing up? Because it doesn't feel so nice. Lying down feels so nice, I get it. Standing up is a rajasic activity. When you're trying to meditate and you're standing, you're probably going to start to get fidgety. You're going to start to want to move. Your mind is going to go faster. Again, not ideal. Sitting down in an upright meditation posture is sitting already in a position that will help you towards sattvic states. You must at some point cultivate those mental states. You can't just do lying down practice. If you are incredibly ill and you can't sit, maybe that's an exception. But even then, the moment you can, sit again. The advice that I give to people on, usually, and you'll get this advice in the training as well, maybe a better option than, sitting for 5 minutes and lying down is to sit with your back near a wall. Don't lean against the wall. Like right now, you can see me. I'm sitting up and I'm sitting near a wall. And if you start to feel a lot of back pain and you're really struggling, wait first, wait a minute or two, try to work with it. And if it's really, really painful still, you really can't relax it, you just lean back against the wall and you resume the practice there. That's maybe a really nice middle way. Now, if you were to go to a monastery, you can't do that. If you were to go to a traditional context, they won't let you. But honestly, it's not ideal, but I don't mind that. I don't mind that as a teacher. As long as you're aiming toward not doing it anymore. As long as you, at some point, stop leaning back against the wall. You stay upright the whole time. So it's not that you are just like thinking, oh, it's so nice to lie back, I'm going to lie back. Sitting up is very important. And sitting up in itself, as you'll remember from the Shikantaza posture you did, the first meditation practice we did together, the posture is so important. If you're sitting in that very precise way with the heavy seat, the straight back, the head up, the chin down, ears back, etc., you'll find that already meditative states start to find you. Even if you just learn to sit really well, you're far more likely to enter into deep meditation states. So I'd encourage you all to not just lie down all the time. Don't be too quick to lie down. Cultivate the ability to sit for longer and longer. So now I'm going to pass the baton over to my past self. Thank you, everyone, and really a huge welcome to you all. I'm very excited you're all here with me on this journey. Over to me a week ago. So, having started with the inspiration, why meditate? The next big question, you've got the why, the next is the what. What do you actually do? What meditation practice do you do? Now, I have a few things that I get very irritable about. I'm not all shanti, shanti, shanti. I'm not all this, peaceful guy. A few things really get my goat. And one of them is when I say to people, they say, I've been meditating for a year. What do you do? Oh yeah, I just meditate. What does that mean? What do you do? I just sit there. You're not meditating then, you're just sitting there. It's not meditation. Meditation is a specific practice you happen to be doing while usually still. In some cases, like this walking meditation, we'll do that in day 4. That's there too. But usually you're sitting up or sometimes lying down in a still position following a particular practice. You need to know what you're doing. You can't just meditate. It doesn't mean anything. You're not just meditating sitting around, doing nothing. It's not meditation. It's just sitting around doing nothing. So there's always a specific practice. So far, we've done 2 practices already. We did the shikantaza, where, again, the instructions were very specific. I asked you to sit in the 7 points of posture and then open the awareness out, taking everything in. That's a practice of meditation. Second practice, you had the 4 stages of the mindfulness of breathing. Again, there were stages. There was something to do. The mind is given tasks. All meditation practices, the mind is given a task to perform, and then you do your best to follow that task to the best of your ability. We don't just sit around and wait. And there's a place for that. It's beautiful to do nothing, but it's not meditation. Meditation is specific. We're doing something. If you're calling your, gardening your meditation, one of my close friends calls her chess playing. I'm a fellow chess lover. Anyone who wants to play chess, let me know. Oh, we are playing. Anyway. Awesome. Yeah. I'll bring a board and we'll bring a break if you want. So she says her chess is her meditation. And that may be true, but it's unlikely. It's only a meditation if your reason for doing it is to enter a meditative state of mind. And you're doing it like that. So for example, if you say gardening's your meditation, you would have to put your phone down, you have to turn off your music, and you have to then really mindfully engage in your gardening. If your chess is your meditation, you look at the board, again, no phone. If you're on your phone, of course, no other messages. You just sit there and you really play with everything. You play with your whole engagement, and any thoughts that come up, you come back to the game. Then you can say it's a form of meditation. Not formal, but it is meditative practice. So, if you're saying running is a meditation, get those headphones out and feel the running process, feel the feet, feel the process of the heart getting faster. Then you could say you're doing a meditative practice. But it's a bit tricky and dangerous to just say, oh yeah, my driving is a meditation. Is it? Probably not. Yeah. So something I hear a lot, and even one of you yesterday said it, that your activity is your meditation. Fine, as long as you make sure that it's from that inspiration behind it. So the thing is, when you begin to get to know a little bit about the meditation world, you realize it's vast. It's a huge, huge world. There are so many things. I was reflecting in the break this morning after the first class a little bit. It's like, oh my God, what have I done? Why have I decided to do mindfulness in one day when I really need 1 year? Why have I decided to do somatic meditation in one day, etc.? And I thought, oh, maybe we should do modules like 1 week of just mindfulness next time. And I thought, okay, Bender's going to hate me. Just creating all these new courses. But the thing is, at some point, we need to figure out, and that's really, I guess, what this course is about, figuring out where you fit, where your practice of meditation most takes flight, where you're most inspired, and just feel your way through. I've very clearly separated the course out in these 3 segments. You have today those here with me in person, this first module, those online, of just the mindfulness teachings. Just 3 practices. There'll be some more of each in the final day. And just feel how they go. Like the mindfulness practice is generally quite gentle. It's generally kind of sitting back and observing things. The somatic meditation, you're more going deep into the body, and yogic meditation is a whole different beast altogether. So they're good examples of systems of meditation. And I've really made them broad. I mean, these are not things, terminology you find everywhere. They're kind of my own take, honestly. But it's like if you're working within, let's say, the Thai forest tradition of Buddhism, you're within the mindfulness tradition. If you're working within a Karma Kagyu lineage of Tibet, you're working within somatic meditation. If you're working within the teachings of Vasishtha, of Svatmarama, of the great Hatha yogis, you're working within yogic meditation. So there's the broad fields, but within them there's more specific situations. So what you want to go through at first is go through what I call meditation shopping. You know, it's like you go out, and one of my exes used to talk about it, you know, why she could never marry someone without first, you know, doing the deed. And she said, you have to try before you buy. Is what she said. And and you know, it's a bit like that in meditation. Try before you buy. You know, don't meet a teacher you find charismatic or wonderful or whatever. You know, it's so easy to get online and find a YouTube teacher, and this teacher, oh my God, she or he looks so powerful or so peaceful, and then, yeah, whatever they do, I'll do. But then you try their meditation and it's horrible. It doesn't work for you. But you kind of feel like you should stick to it, and you waste a year or two of your life following practices that aren't for you. Try them first. Try a practice out. Try it. I often say to students who are interested in building meditation, try a certain practice for a week every day, and then at the end of the week, see, how was that? Did I like that? Don't decide right away. It'll often take more than one practice to try it. This is a bit different in this situation because you're doing a lot of practice every day. You're probably pretty on point with what practices you relate to and what you don't. But even then, if you suspect you might like a practice, commit to it for a week every day. And then end of the week, reconvene. If you like it, commit to the next month every day. If you like it, commit to 3 months every day. And so on. So you're gradually building a practice over time. So we find a system of meditation. Any decent meditation system is progressive. That's the only problem I have with TM. Who was it who said he was doing transcendental meditation already? Remind me? One of you guys was doing TM for a year or two. Yeah, you were. That's right. Yeah. The only problem I have with it is it's not a system. It's basically saying, here's the mantra, do it every day, and you become enlightened. And you know, there's a lot of re-annoyed people 20 years later who never got enlightened, even though they did the mantra twice a day. It's actually a great system, and the practice is awesome, but there's not enough of a journey, I feel. It's me being maybe a little bit judgmental, but just based on what I know works. The thing is, the mind will go through various stages. I'll share with you in a moment. Just time check. I'll share partially in a moment. The mind will go through various stages, and there's various things we need. For example, the 3 practices we're doing today give you a very different take on mindfulness. You can't just do mindfulness of breathing your whole life and get a full picture. It's not enough. Now, the 3 practices today, the first was shikantaza, which is, again, as I mentioned, basically means just sitting, like a bamboo, or just sitting, which is a more open, pure awareness practice, where basically you make room for all of experience. It's designed to become more aware, to just become more open, to start to notice more, become more sensitive. The second practice, the anapanasati, the mindfulness of breathing, is trying to teach your mind to be fully attentive on one thing without interruption for a long time. For example, that's what the TM guys do with a mantra. The mantra is another way you could do that. You know, it doesn't really matter what you choose, but it's choosing one thing to be really attentive to, and then learning to become absorbed in that, leading all the way to samadhi states of deep ecstatic meditation. And we then have the other practice we're going to do, spoiler alert, after lunch, is the metta bhavana, often translated as the development of loving kindness. I'm not a big fan of that translation, only because in the modern day, loving kindness is often even said like that, like one word, loving kindness, becomes kind of a catchphrase, doesn't mean much anymore. Metta actually comes from the word mitra, which means friend. So bhavana means cultivation. Cultivation of friendliness is more correct, actually. or even further, cultivation of positive emotion. So you'll discover what the practice, those who don't know it yet, is when we do it. I want to keep them all fresh for you, so I'm not going to describe them first. We do them fresh. We'll do it after lunch. Those who are here online, do it after lunch if you like, or any time of the day. As you sit and meditate, you cannot be this kind of hard, tough meditator. You can't be cruel to yourself. Imagine you're trying to follow the breath, and the mind goes away. For fuck's sake, mind, come back. No, come back. Good. No. Can you imagine practicing like that? Horrible. You're just going to become this mean, kind of grumpy person. So that's an exaggeration. Hopefully no one's going to do that. But you can use the no. That's a different story. The no can be a helpful tool. There's a whole Zen practice around no. But it's a kind no. It's like, if you're saying no to yourself, it's saying no like you would say no to a small child trying to eat a snake. You're firm to keep it safe, but you're not cruel. No. Not like, not yelling and screaming at it. So actually, my teacher Vajradhaka tells a story about that. He was practicing the no a lot. And he got to the stage where it got so much part of his life, he started to be too, like he once was helping some of his housemates make porridge. He lives in male communities always, his whole life, because that's what his thing is as a Buddhist practitioner in his lineage. And they were making porridge in the morning, and his housemate, a good friend of his, said, Vajradhaka, shall I add some honey to your porridge? No. Because he was practicing no. Oh, sorry, a bit firm, I think. Okay. No, thank you. So we need to have a kind of kindness or warmth. We approach the practice with softness and care. And the small child metaphor is one I think of a lot. I don't have children myself at this point. Who knows if I ever will. But I have small dog children. They're enough for me. They're wonderful. But you can treat your mind like a small, undisciplined child. And you wouldn't be unkind, hopefully, to a small, undisciplined child. You'd be firm, but you'd be kind and caring as well. So you don't let yourself get away with everything. You don't just let your mind go crazy and start thinking about this and that and this and that. But at the same time, you also not cruel and horrible and strict. There's a balance you have to find, which actually lead me very soon to the next of the skills, one of the most important. But yeah, so overall, we need to find a sense of warmth and care and kindness to all of our experience. If your body is in pain, be kind to that. Don't just sit there and ignore it. Like I mentioned, for example, say you're meditating and suddenly your knee aches. Wait, don't move yet. Sometimes these are phantom pains. It might just be your mind trying to distract you, get you out of the situation. But then if you gently sit there and it still keeps aching, just move the knee. Maybe you need to stretch it out. Maybe it needs a different place. Maybe you need to change legs. Yeah. So everything in meditation we have to do with a foundation of care and warmth and kindness. Otherwise it doesn't really work, because the mind needs to be nurtured, not punished. Some very traditional formulations of meditation I have an issue with, and maybe it works in certain cultures, doesn't work within my milieu. They basically talk about doing things like killing the ego. Why? It's a part of you. It's who you are. What's wrong with that? Don't kill it. Soften it. Go underneath it. Undermine it. Find who you really are, but don't kill it. Or like people think sometimes meditation is trying to kill the mind. You become a vegetable. You don't kill the mind. You just refine the mind. You make sure the mind is a bit more clear and bright and less all over the place. So there's no enemy within you. I know those of you who've been doing some of you have been doing my teachings on the Bhagavad Gita lately. I know that goes against that, which is all about a battle. But that's one metaphor. This is another one. So sorry Lilia and Nadia. Yeah, there are so many schools of thought. Bit of background for those of you that I'm talking about. I'm with my regular classes online at the moment. I'm doing a big cycle of Bhagavad Gita teachings, which is all about the battle within. This is not this week's approach. There's no battle. There kind of is, but there kind of isn't. There's more kind of harnessing integrating all the various elements within you. So you can't be cruel to your mind. You have to be kind and nurturing and firm to your mind. So kind attention. Which leads me, as I mentioned, to the fourth, which is the one I probably work at the most these days. Balancing effort. So what will happen when you meditate, you'll usually either bring too much effort in or not enough effort in. Not enough means you'll drift away and you'll be gone. Too much, you become kind of hard and brittle in your meditation. Yeah. Some of you can recognize that. So I've been in both camps many times. I sit and I really strongly try to pay attention, and then I manage to keep my eye on the breath, whatever, but nothing happens other than tension because I'm holding too tight. Other times I'm too loose and then everything just goes away. So we need to constantly balance the effort. There's a very useful teaching I use a lot in my own practice of the establishment phase. And the teaching is from old Buddhism, old Southeast Asian Buddhism, from India first, but then moved over. And the establishment phase means at first, beginning of a practice, bring a lot of attention to the object. Too much, actually. So for example, with the mindfulness of breathing we've already done, you sit and you really strongly put your mind on that breath. And once you've established the mind there, then you back off and you relax. And you relax as much as you can, and then at some point you realize you've gone too far. Then you bring more energy in again. And that's the constant dance. And there'll be times when you find the perfect balance of effort. You're just there. You're just with the breath. There's no effort anymore, but there's no kind of drifting around either. It's just being there with the breath, in this case. It goes for any meditation practice you do. And the last of these might sound a little bit wishy-washy, but it's not. It's very precise. And that's refining the mind and the attention. So at the beginning, our minds are actually really not refined at all. And typical, if you ever want to test this out, go on a retreat. I know, as far as I know, only one or two of you have done retreats before, meditation retreats. Go on a retreat, put away all of your stimulation, your phone, your books. You know, I was really good at that until I went on my most recent long retreat with Reggie Ray's organization, one of his senior teachers, in Colorado, 3 weeks. And they gave us a talk at the beginning, no phones, no reading, no music, nothing. And I thought, yeah, easy. And then they said, and no journaling. Huh? What? I can't write? And I was realizing I was using writing as a distraction. Every retreat always, except for that one, I have pages, I have like a whole book worth of notes. And it's all rubbish anyway. It's just me venting my emotions and this and this and this and feeling that. Who cares? You know, did it really help me writing all that down? No, it didn't. It was just my way of distracting myself. So the mind is not refined. It's using any excuse it can to distract itself. You know, whether it's journaling or writing, or whether it's, you know, reading a book. And I remember on that retreat, I was a bit naughty, you know, and I realized how bad it was later. One morning, it was my birthday that morning, and I gave myself a birthday gift. Terrible gift. I decided to break the rules for half an hour and listen to an audio play. And then my mind was fucked for 2 days because it lost all its subtlety. And I really noticed, wow, that's how important it is to go with the trend. Actually, it was a great teacher. Because I thought, yeah, no problem, half an hour of a beautiful play. And I really enjoyed that play. It was so nice to get stimulation again. But then my mind got less refined. So refining the mind, you're making it more subtle. And the reason this is important is, the thing is, at the moment, we are all functioning so in the external world that we can't access these deep states of meditation. They're so subtle initially. I mean, how on earth can you expect to stay with the breath when you're used to every spare moment scrolling through Instagram or, you know, reading books or watching YouTube or whatever it is you like to do in your spare time? Or, you know, if you're relaxing, put on your music and having a glass of wine, whatever you do. There's always some kind of distraction. I don't know many people who just sit and chill and do nothing with nothing. People don't do that. They always have something to fill their time with. And that's actually not bad, but at the same time, it's really helpful to, over time, refine that. The way that I first learned this was in my London years. That was in 2008 to 2012. And I got into this habit. I fell into it one day accidentally. And then I started working with my meditation teacher who's in London, Vajradaka, a year later. And he was really happy that I did this. And what I was doing is every morning did a full, long asana and pranayama practice. And most days it took me 2.5 to 3 hours. I was going to a school, doing my own practice there. And then afterwards, I would go and sit in the closest cafe, which happened to be a Starbucks. And I just sat there. And always for the first 45 minutes, I wasn't actually doing anything. I just had my coffee and I sat. I didn't read, I didn't think, I just sat and just enjoyed the experience of sitting there. And it's amazing, actually, that meant that when I went to start meditating with my teacher a year or two later after starting that, it was quite easy for me because I was used to that. So, that's often what I recommend to students, private students especially, who are really not sure how to start meditating. I say start with that. Spend 20 minutes, half an hour a day, unstructured time. If you want to have a drink, like a tea or a coffee, that's fine, but no. Put your phone away, put it on silent, put it, off, and just sit there. In a cafe if you can't bear to be alone at home, on your couch, just sit there. Don't fall asleep, just sit there and do nothing. That is such a wonderful thing because it starts to make your mind more refined. You start to notice more. You start to become more aware of your surroundings. You start to suddenly realize, my God, I actually feel really sad. I didn't even know that. Because the thing is, your heart, your body, the deeper parts of your mind are constantly, your subconscious are constantly nudging you. We can't hear it because our mind is not subtle enough. All we hear is the loud noise of the outside world and its distractions. So meditation teaches you to refine the mind, make it more subtle. So you start to hear more of the quiet voice here. It's a profound process. So the initial aim of meditation, it might sound like a very big aim, but it's the only where it really starts. The initial aim of meditation is integration. Integration. And I'm borrowing here, in this one brief moment, the teachings of Sangharakshita. Sangharakshita, one of my favorite teachers out there, I never met him, he died recently, sadly, in his 90s, I believe. But he founded this thing that was originally called, terrible name, the Western Buddhist Order. That then later was called Triratna. They changed their name. There's some controversy around him because there's some accusations from various people about that he used his power to take them to bed and so on. His response to that was, I thought they wanted to sleep with me. I didn't try to seduce them. But anyway, who knows what's behind that. But his teachings are really quite wonderful. And this is teaching from him. He talks about this. He talks about integration being where it all starts. The thing is, none of us are integrated. The journey of meditation really, once you've done the basic starting point of choosing a practice and realizing why you want to practice, then we start to work toward integration. Now, integration basically tries to pull all of you together. At the moment, and this is very much accepted by modern psychology as far as I understand. I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a psychologist, I've never done that study, so excuse me if I get some of this stuff incorrect, but as far as I understand, and I've fairly widely read, this is the case, that it's accepted that we are all just a bunch of different personalities that happen to be here in one basic body. And what we are is actually situational. Situational means we are a different person depending on the situation we're in. So if you're with your close friends, you're not going to be the same as you would be on a first date or at a job interview, or whatever. You'd be a completely different person. So, and different aspects of your personality come to the forefront. And the thing is, in an untrained person, as in untrained in meditation or the other processes to integrate, my favorite of these is a psychological process called IFS, Internal Family Systems, well worth looking into for those who are curious. Wonderful, wonderful work. It's trying to help also integration. The book on that to read is called Self-Therapy. I forget the name of the author. Ask me later if you're interested. And in integration, the process is about bringing all the parts of you that are usually very different in desires and needs in the same direction. it's like finally all of you is heading in one direction. You're not being pulled apart from here to here. The part of you that really wants to get up and practice, you're so inspired, and the part of you that is just feeling lazy and just wants to sleep. Those are two different personalities, two parts within you. And integration, everything comes together. And that's really what the practices do in the early stages. They're trying to have you find the sense of integration. The primary sets of practices of integration, to use the Buddhist terms, are the shamatha practices. That's S-H-A-M-A-T-H-A, shamatha, which means, anyone know what shamatha means? Anyone? I can hear some of you online screaming at the screen. You can write me a message. It means to make peaceful. Shamatha practices are basically practices like the two we've done already today and the one we'll do later today, which are the practices of trying to put your mind in one direction of your choice. And the thing is, it's impossible to do that without integration. Until you are fully integrated and a whole personality, every time you try to follow the breath, for example, it's not going to work. It'll work for a short time, it'll stop again. When you are whole, more complete, and you're all heading in one direction, you find that you can easily follow the breath. It's not a problem. It's very easy, actually. It's only when you're not that way inclined, you have a hard time, because there's different parts of you vying for attention. So the process of integration is about becoming more and more absorbed, stage by stage, in the object of our meditation. Probably the last thing I'll say for this session, I think. Then we'll take a break. Yeah?
Could you just emphasize again why it's so bad to have different selves, or why it's so bad to have these different things for meditation?
It's not so bad. It just means nothing will ever really change. It's actually having different selves, different parts of you is very normal. It's who we are. But it's like they have to all become friends. Yeah, at the moment they're not. Like in the system I mentioned, the internal family systems, they talk about all these different parts of you, often traumatized parts of you. They never quite really come to the surface. They're under the hood. They're in the subconscious mind, for example, and they are undermining you. You know, here's a silly example. I was doing a lot of this work 2 years ago, integration work with meditation and using the IFS system, and realized suddenly, wow, every time I feel like there's an injustice being done against me or someone I'm close to, I become rageful. I feel like fire burning, and I'm ready to tear someone's head off. I thought, what the hell is that about? Usually I'm quite a chilled, quite a relaxed guy. I'm intense, but quite relaxed. What is this? And then suddenly I realized, I was doing this work with the meditation in combination with IFS, and suddenly realized there's a part of me, and often, as I mentioned already, I tend to see in the language of metaphor. And the metaphor that turned up is, who comes to the surface is the part of me that is a power-hungry, incredibly successful CEO, and who thinks anyone underneath him is just worth nothing. How dare you talk to me that way? Who the hell are you to speak to me this way? That's the feeling. And that was a part of me. And it was there trying to actually protect another part of me that was very alone and sad. Yeah. So these are two parts I talked about. You've got the CEO, you've got the sad, alone part, and then there's the me at the top trying to manage it all. Yeah. But because they weren't integrated, they were all over the place, and they were both ruling the show. There's no way the mind can ever become very steady and focused if you have all these things going on inside you that are unresolved. Does that answer your question? Yeah. I think that's actually probably enough. Yeah, any more questions about, because I want to start the new thing after lunch. And any more questions about what we've covered today or anything else? Remember those, in case I haven't said this enough, those via the online training, any questions you have, write them in. Put them in the groups. Message me personally if it's a personal question. If it's not personal, put it in the public forum so that you can share your concerns with the others. Okay.